This Death is for the Dying Epitaph, a mini episode of the podcast Death is for the Dying. I'm your host, Rebecca Richmond, and with me today is the podcast producer, Marco Burlow. Hey, Marco.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
We're,
I'm excited about this season.
we're doing something different.
We are doing something
We're
different.
doing something different. This is something that I've been trying to maybe think about or try to implement for the last little while because I don't know about you, but whenever I'm watching stuff like on Instagram Reels or TikTok or whatever, you see a lot of podcasts and they all now have video components to it. So I thought maybe we should get on that train, maybe try to let the people know what we look like, talking about all the different things about the podcast and all the topics associated with it. Um, not the greatest studio, I will say, but it'll do.
It'll do. All
It'll do.
right. Well, to suddenly bring down the mood, um,
Yes,
we have had death enter our lives in the
we
last
have.
with
Yeah.
Ada El, who died last December of
Hmm.
the breast cancer she had been diagnosed with,
Hmm.
which had spread to her brain and other parts. Um, and you were with her through the entire journey. Um,
Yes,
I was in a different state, but how did that hit you?
it was tough, but at the same time, it was easier than I expected. And I think because I was ready for it. And all credit to you being a part of your journey with your mom and kind of observing it from my point of view, I got to see how you coped with it and all the tools that you were using, all the books that you were reading, all the conversations that you and I had. And what helped a lot was listening to some of those books that you gave me and also just knowing that this was going to be ending at some point and having that time to prepare for that end to come, for me at least, I think it was a blessing. It allowed me to spend as much time with her as I possibly could, share a whole bunch of stories, a whole bunch of laughs, and remember her in that way. So when I got the news that she passed away from her kids after seeing her the night before at the hospital, I was upset, cried in my living room when I heard the news. I just found out just before I went to work. But on the drive to work, there was a certain calmness, relief, maybe, that made me feel like, okay, she's done suffering. She's now in a better place. And I'm glad I got to spend that time with her. And it's going to be weird not hearing her voice, but it hasn't been as traumatic as I thought it was going to be. And I believe I called you, right? I think I called you about it.
Uh,
Yeah. How did you react?
Um, I mean, similarly, it wasn't news. I was probably more in the relief camp than anything else because I had visited her in November, and at that point in time it was really clear that she was just suffering. Um and while she was still in good spirits, they're just she was in pain, she couldn't walk, she couldn't take care of herself. So it was pretty rough, and I she didn't get the death that she wanted, and so that's one of the regrets that I have. When she mentioned on the podcast that she wanted to like die in clean linen sheets at home, and she died in the hospital. But I think for me, one of the things is that we did have those conversations. with her in the podcast. And, admittedly, that was like immediately after she had been diagnosed. And so there was still some hope then that,
Yeah.
maybe something
Yeah.
would take. But it wasn't like high hopes then. Um, but to know that she was already kind of at peace with it then, and she had gotten to tell her story.
That was the big thing for sure. Like I remember her recording her in her bedroom, in her closet, her walk-in closet. And she was sitting there on a chair. She had her beanie on and she was, wrapped in all these warm clothes. And I remember her saying that, or maybe not at the time, but later on, she would often tell me, I don't remember anything that I said. Like it's all a blank to me. And we sat down with her for what? 4 hours, 5 hours?
5 hours. It was 5 hours.
5 hours, right. And everything just came out, just all of it, her life story, all of her experiences, a lot of stuff that you and I probably weren't privy to when we knew her as a colleague. And to have all of that come out in this perfect clarity stream of consciousness, it was just beautiful. And there was a bunch of stories that she told that we put in the podcast that I severely underestimated the amount of life experience that this person had and how dynamic it was.
Yeah.
But anyways, I mean, God is not the only thing that we're going to be talking
No,
about on this, but I want to tell the audience that I can't remember how long ago it was. Maybe it was 3 years ago. Actually, you know what? It may have been just after the pandemic. You and I were on a hike and we started talking about this subject. We started talking about this particular season. And I remember being really, really excited about it because, for me at least, I am hoping that all the stuff that we're going to be talking about in this season is going to help people in the same way that you helped me, right? And being able to share that knowledge and experience with others is something that I hope will help at least one person out there.
I think it's always been kind of a core interest of mine. Um, Starting from, being an archaeologist, but then getting more interested into the death positive movement. And this is a little bit of a different season. I feel like previous seasons, it's really been more of a pastiche of humanity, a kind
Mm-hmm.
of capture of picture of human experience, where this is a little bit more directed, and a little bit more, I guess, advocacy, for changing the way we think about death and changing the way we speak about death. So what are you looking forward to most in the season?
I think, having listened to all the interviews, having processed a lot of it myself already, the thing that I am looking forward to, or at least the thing I'm looking forward to sharing with folks, is the the story in which we kind of organize this season and kind of walking everybody through every single stage. Because I think for a lot of us, death can come suddenly. And when it does, we don't necessarily know how to handle that. I think by structuring, or the way that you have written, this particular season, talking about, hey, how do you handle when you get the bad news? What happens in the between time? What does actively dying look like? Because a lot of us don't see that. So I like the whole arc of it from beginning to the literal end, and and showing folks what things are available to them, or what ideas, what concepts, what resources, whatever it is available at every single stage, because you will find yourself in one of these stages, and knowing how to deal with it is going to make the process a lot easier. So, what are you looking forward to for this season?
I gotta admit, my favorite episode is the body disposition episode. I
Or
love
body disposal?
or body disposal. Both work. I switch back and forth between the two. Uh, but yeah, Seth was fantastic. And it's
Yeah.
also something that I'm kind of interested in. Like, or not just kind of interested in, I am interested in, like I want to be composted. I want my
Hmm.
body to like be part of nature again. I don't want to be embalmed. So I have some really strong feelings about that one. Um, and as I said, he's just a great guest and a great storyteller.
Very much so. I agree. I think that particular episode is going to open a lot of eyes for folks, and just knowing what options are there for your loved ones that pass away, or even for yourself if you decide to do something for yourself.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to that episode.
Yes, very much so. And I guess that wraps up this episode, or rather this epitaph.
And wraps up the epitaph. Yep.
Wraps up the epitaph. Um, but thanks for joining us. And if you want to join the conversation, and we really do want to hear from you, you can uh, tweet us at Life is for the L. Same handle on Instagram. And you can also email us directly at lifeisforthelivingpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.